Ancient stones once mapped the heavens with silent, breathtaking accuracy. Long before modern astronomy, our ancestors built stone circles as sophisticated observatories, tracking the sun, moon, and stars across the sky. In this video, you will discover how prehistoric people decoded the cosmos using nothing but rock and shadow. We will uncover how these circles predicted celestial events like eclipses and explore the unresolved mystery of how such precision was achieved without writing. What forgotten knowledge do you think is still locked within these stones? Our deep past is written not on parchment, but in the very landscape itself. From the moment early humans first looked upward, they became students of a vast and moving clockwork. They saw how the sun's journey across the sky shortened and lengthened the days. They watched the moon swell and shrink, marking the passage of time. They learned that the arrival of certain stars heralded the coming rains or the time for planting. Their survival depended on reading these celestial signs. To make this knowledge permanent, they began to build. Stone by stone, they erected circles that were far more than ritual spaces. They were humanity's first communal observatories, a perfect fusion of spiritual belief and practical science. A single standing stone, for example, could be positioned to catch the first ray of the rising sun on the longest day of the year. That moment of illumination transformed a rough boulder into a precise calendar marker. It told a community when to gather for a ceremony, when to expect the salmon to run, or when the ground would be ready for seeds. This celestial order brought predictability to a world full of uncertainty. It was this foundational need to harmonize human life with the cosmos that set the stage for ever more ambitious constructions. The simple act of marking a sunrise would soon evolve into a breathtakingly complex science of the stars, carved in stone for the ages. These stone circles reveal a pattern of human ingenuity that spans the entire globe. Think of them as circular arrangements of massive standing stones, built over thousands of years during what we call the Neolithic and Bronze Ages. While the colossal rings of Stonehenge in England are world famous, they are far from alone. In West Africa, the ancient Senegambian circles stand with a quiet dignity all their own. The form these monuments took was as diverse as the landscapes they occupied. Some were simple, elegant rings. Others grew into elaborate formations with inner chambers, outlying stones, and complex alignments, each one uniquely adapted to its local geography and the cultural practices of the people who built it. This was not a single idea spreading from one place, but a universal human impulse flowering independently across the world. In the sun-scorched deserts of Egypt, the Nabta Playa circle predates Stonehenge by centuries. Far across the Atlantic, at Moose Mountain in Canada, another circle of stones marks the passing seasons. Why would cultures with no possible contact with one another all arrive at the same profound solution? Experts like Archaeoastronomer Clive Ruggles, who studies the astronomy of ancient peoples, argue these sites were never random. Each stone was carefully chosen and precisely positioned to capture a key astronomical event, a solstice sunrise, a major lunar standstill, or the rising of a significant star. They served a dual purpose as vital communal gathering spots and as sophisticated celestial calculators. This widespread distribution tells us something fundamental about our ancestors. They were not just passive inhabitants of their world, but active observers, driven by a shared need to understand the skies above them. Their independent discoveries laid a foundation of knowledge, one that allows us to now compare their insights across vast distances and cultures. How did these different societies, separated by oceans, see the same patterns in the stars? This field of discovery is called Archaeoastronomy, a science that reads the stones like a forgotten language. It merges the careful digging of archaeology with the precise calculations of astronomy, all to understand how ancient people saw their universe. Researchers do not just look at where the stones stand. They study the spaces between them, the way shadows fall at dawn on a specific day, and the artifacts left behind. They ask, what did the builders intend for us to see? The answers reveal that these circles were masterpieces of both science and spirit. Take the Callanish stones in Scotland, for instance. This haunting arrangement of monoliths on the Isle of Lewis is far more than a ceremonial site. Its central stone and surrounding avenues are aligned with the complex 18.6-year cycle of the Moon. At the peak of this cycle, the Moon appears to skim the southern horizon, and at Callanish, it seems to glide directly down the main avenue, a silent celestial procession. This was not a casual observation. It represented a deep understanding of lunar patterns, allowing the community to predict events that likely governed their most sacred rituals and their calendar. The late engineer Alexander Thom surveyed hundreds of these sites and argued that the builders used a standard unit of measurement, what he called the megalithic yard. He believed the geometry of the circles was incredibly precise, incorporating complex ellipses and Pythagorean triangles long before the Greeks formalized such mathematics. This idea pushes us to completely reconsider these monuments. They were not the crude efforts of a primitive people, but the work of sophisticated astronomers and engineers. Every stone was a deliberate piece of a cosmic puzzle. This challenges the old view of prehistory as a simple time, replacing it with a vision of early innovation where intellect and observation were as sharp as any modern tool. By understanding archaeoastronomy, we start to appreciate the true intellectual landscape of our ancestors. Their achievements force a simple, humbling question. How did they manage such precision with the tools they had? That same intellectual drive led to a practical mastery of the sun. Solar alignments are perhaps the most direct and powerful feature of these ancient observatories. Communities across the world anchored their calendars to the sun's predictable journey, using stone circles to pinpoint the solstices and equinoxes. These were not abstract dates, but the very pillars that held up the agricultural year. The summer solstice, the longest day, and the winter solstice, the shortest, divided the year into manageable seasons. Picture the scene at Stonehenge on a misty English morning in late June. As the sun crests the horizon, its first light shoots directly between the pillars of the outer Sarsen circle. It strikes a single, slanted boulder known as the heel stone, and from there, a long, dramatic shadow pierces the heart of the monument. This was a communal alarm clock on a grand scale, signaling a time for gathering, for celebration, and for confirming that the world was still in its proper order. But this knowledge was not confined to one continent. Far across the ocean, high in the Andes Mountains, the Inca crafted their own solar markers. At Machu Picchu, the Intihuatana stone, often called the hitching post of the sun, was precisely carved to interact with the sun's rays during the equinoxes. On those 2 days each year when day and night are of equal length, the stone would cast no shadow at all. It was a moment of perfect celestial balance, a demonstration of control over the cosmic forces that governed their empire. This global pattern reveals a universal truth. The need to track the sun was driven by survival itself. Knowing exactly when to plant crops, when to expect the rains to end, or when to move livestock to new pastures could mean the difference between plenty and famine. These stones transformed the abstract motion of a star into a tangible, visible event that everyone could witness. They turned astronomy from a theory into a tool, deeply woven into the fabric of daily life. Yet the sun was only half of the celestial story, for its partner, the moon, moved in a far more complex and mysterious dance. But the moon presented a far greater puzzle than the sun. Its path across the sky is not a simple, repeating loop. For ancient observers, the moon would have seemed almost alive, its rising and setting points shifting dramatically over a complex cycle lasting 18.6 years. At the peak of this cycle, the moon reaches what is called a major standstill, a point where it appears to pause at the very edge of its range before slowly turning back. This was not just a curiosity, it was a key that unlocked the prediction of eclipses, the most dramatic celestial events of all. At sites like Noath in Ireland, the very stones themselves hold the code. The massive curbstones surrounding the Great Mound are not blank. They are covered in intricate spirals and symbols, a permanent record carved into the landscape. Researchers believe these carvings are not merely decorative, but are a symbolic map of the moon's long journey. By tracking the moon's position against these markers over years and decades, the ancient astronomers could anticipate when the sun, Earth, and moon would align perfectly to cast a shadow upon the Earth. Imagine the power this knowledge bestowed. An eclipse was a moment of profound fear and wonder, often seen as a dragon swallowing the moon or a sign of divine displeasure. For the priest or chieftain who could stand before the people and announce, "The moon will darken on this very night," it was more than science, it was social authority. They could transform a terrifying omen into a scheduled ritual, a time for renewal and community reaffirmation. This was a breathtaking intellectual achievement. It meant these early scientists had internalized the fundamental rhythms of orbital mechanics without a single written equation or diagram. They observed, they remembered, and they built a system that could forecast celestial drama generations into the future. With the sun and moon so precisely charted, the final piece of the celestial map was written in the fixed, distant stars. The stars offered a fixed map against which the sun and moon performed their endless dance. While solar and lunar events marked the rhythms of months and years, the constellations provided a stable, nightly clock and compass, guiding journeys and anchoring stories. Some stone circles were precisely aligned with these brilliant, distant lights, turning the heavens into a grand, predictable guidebook. The Ring of Brodgar in Scotland stands as a prime example, where specific monoliths point unerringly toward the bright star Capella. Its first appearance in the autumn sky was a critical signal, a cosmic announcement that winter was approaching. For a pastoral society, this meant it was time to bring livestock down from the high pastures or to prepare for the seasonal trade routes that would soon become impassable. This was practical astronomy woven directly into the economy of survival. What is truly staggering is the timescale of this knowledge. Stars are not perfectly fixed. Over centuries, a slow wobble in the Earth's axis, a phenomenon known as precession, gradually shifts the position of the stars in the sky. An alignment that was perfect when a circle was built would be noticeably off just a few generations later. Yet, the enduring accuracy of many sites tells us that these alignments were maintained, the knowledge carefully passed down, and perhaps even the stones themselves subtly adjusted over hundreds of years. This was a science practiced not by a single lifetime, but by a culture deeply committed to preserving its connection to the cosmos. This stellar mapping went far beyond mere utility. Historians like John North suggest that these alignments also encoded rich mythological stories. A constellation was not just a pattern of lights, it was a hero, an animal, or a god. A stone that pointed to a particular star might be seen as an anchor for that celestial being, tethering the myth to the earth. The sky became a vast canvas for cultural narratives, and the stone circle was the terrestrial mirror reflecting that story back to the community. By linking their monuments to specific stars, ancient peoples created a living map of the heavens, one that reinforced their place within a grand, animated universe. This deep stellar knowledge, however, raises a profound and practical question. What tools did these ancient astronomers use to achieve such lasting precision without a single written manual? The sheer precision of these monuments forces us to ask how they were built. Without telescopes or written records, ancient astronomers relied on an elegant toolkit of simple principles and patient observation. Their most fundamental instrument was the gnomon, a simple pole stuck upright in the ground. By watching how its shadow moved and changed length throughout the day and across the seasons, they could map the sun's path with remarkable accuracy. This basic tool evolved into the permanent stone alignments we see today, but their methods were often more sophisticated. At sites like Observatories, the vast stone circles were once complemented by great rings of wooden posts. This combination of materials was not random. The wooden posts could be used for finer, more temporary sighting lines, allowing for adjustments and refinements before the final, immovable megaliths were put in place. It was a system of both permanence and flexibility, showing a deep understanding of practical engineering. They also used the earth itself as an instrument. Some circles feature carefully dug pits that were likely filled with water. On a calm night, this still water would become a perfect mirror, reflecting the starry sky downward. This allowed an observer to look down into a stable, manageable image of the heavens, making it easier to track the movements of stars without craning their neck for hours. This was astronomy made tangible. The knowledge gained from these tools was not written in books but encoded in memory and stone. Those mysterious cup and ring marks found on monoliths across Europe, for instance, are now thought to be mnemonic devices. Each spiral and indentation could represent a celestial cycle, a key star position, or a lunar phase, serving as a permanent aid for the oral tradition that carried this science forward. This entire process was a slow, collaborative masterpiece. It required generations of watchers sharing their findings, correcting each other, and patiently building a body of knowledge that would outlive them all. This was not a solitary pursuit but a communal project that wove the very fabric of the cosmos into the social bonds of the community. How did this shared celestial knowledge, in turn, shape the very identity and power structures of these ancient societies? These stones anchored entire worldviews, transforming cosmic observations into profound spiritual experiences. A stone circle was far more than a scientific instrument. It was a living temple under an open sky, a place where the community gathered for its most important rituals and festivals. The turning of the seasons, marked so precisely by the sun and moon, was not just a calendar of practical tasks, but a sacred cycle of death and rebirth. The winter solstice, for example, was not merely the shortest day, it was a moment of collective hope. As the sun seemed to weaken and die, the community would assemble in the cold darkness, their eyes fixed on the sacred alignment. When that first sliver of light pierced the central stone, it was a divine message, a promise that the sun had been reborn and life would return to the world. This was a direct communication from the cosmos, interpreted by the people as a sign from their gods. At sites like the Goseck Circle in Germany, the precise solar alignments likely framed ceremonies dedicated to agricultural deities. The community would have gathered within the wooden palisades, watching as the sun rose or set through the specific southern gates on the solstice days. These were not passive observations but active rituals, perhaps involving offerings, chants, or dances, all designed to ensure the sun's continued journey and the fertility of the land. By participating, every individual reinforced their place in a cosmic order. The stones themselves were often seen as vessels of power, Many cultures believed these great monoliths were inhabited by ancestral spirits or earth deities. To touch the stone was to connect with that power. To stand within the circle was to be at the center of the universe. As anthropologist Miranda Aldhouse Green has noted, these sites acted as mediators between the human world and the cosmic realm. They offered a sense of order and meaning in a world that could often seem chaotic and threatening. This spiritual dimension made the stone circle the very heart of community identity. It was where generations celebrated births, conducted initiations into adulthood, and honored their dead. The knowledge of the skies held by a learned few was not separate from faith, it was the foundation of it. Science and spirituality were two sides of the same stone, both essential for understanding humanity's place in the cosmos. This deep cultural significance demanded structures that would endure for ages, which leads us to the next great puzzle, the astonishing engineering that made such permanence possible. The scale of this ambition demanded engineering prowess that seems almost superhuman. To build a stone circle was to engage in a monumental struggle against weight and distance, a project that could define a community for generations. The tools available were starkly simple: antler picks for digging, stone mauls for shaping, and wooden sledges for transport. Yet with these humble instruments, our ancestors quarried, moved, and raised stones that often weighed many tons. Consider the journey of the blue stones to Stonehenge. These distinctive pillars were sourced from the Preseli Hills in Wales, a staggering distance of over 150 miles. How did they accomplish this? The prevailing theory suggests a feat of coordinated logistics, perhaps floating the massive stones on rafts along the Welsh coast and up rivers, then hauling them overland on greased timber tracks using teams of people and oxen. This was not a haphazard effort. It points to a highly organized society with established trade routes, a command of local geography, and a shared purpose powerful enough to motivate such an immense investment of labor. The very act of construction was likely a ritual in itself, binding the community together in a common, sacred task. But the challenge did not end with transportation. Once on site, the stones had to be erected with breathtaking precision, using nothing more than ropes, wooden stakes, and a deep understanding of geometry. The builders laid out perfect circles and complex alignments. They dug deep foundation pits, sloping one side to create a ramp. The great stone was then inched into position, likely raised gradually by levering it upward with timber poles while packing stones and earth underneath until it stood vertical. The final step was placing the massive lintel stones across the top, creating the iconic trilithons. This required creating tongue and groove joints, a woodworking technique masterfully applied to stone, locking the structure together. The precision is staggering, with some solar and lunar alignments accurate to within a few centimeters. This was not brute force, it was brute force guided by elegant science. Yet not every circle required such epic journeys. Many, like the Merry Maiden's Circle in Cornwall, were built with local materials. There, the builders used the native granite, arranging the stones in a perfect ring that seems to grow naturally from the moorland. This harmony with the local terrain shows a deep respect for the landscape, a desire to build with the earth, not merely upon it. The entire endeavor, from a local ring to a cross-country megalithic transport, reflects a societal commitment so profound that it turned raw stone into a permanent conversation with the cosmos. These sites were not built in a single year, but evolved over centuries, each generation adding its own layer of meaning to the enduring stone. These monuments were never frozen in time. They grew and shifted with the people who used them, their stones telling a story of continuous change. The earliest circles, appearing around 5,000 years ago, were often simple enclosures, perhaps just a ring of timber posts or smaller stones defining a sacred space. But over centuries, these basic forms transformed. In the British Isles, we see this evolution clearly. A site might begin as a single ring, only to be expanded generations later with additional concentric circles, new avenues of approach, or towering central monolith. Each new phase of construction reflected a deeper understanding of the skies or a shift in the community's needs. The Bronze Age did not abandon the work of its Neolithic predecessors. It built directly upon it, adding layers of complexity and meaning. This was not a random expansion, but a deliberate refinement, as if the knowledge of the cosmos was itself being carved more deeply into the landscape with every passing generation. As human societies fundamentally changed from nomadic hunting to settled farming, the role of the stone circles expanded dramatically. No longer just observatories or ritual centers, they became multifunctional hubs of community life. A single site could serve as an astronomical calendar, a territorial marker proclaiming a tribe's land, and a sacred burial ground for its most important members. Burial mounds were often added within or beside the circles, physically connecting ancestors to the celestial cycles they had watched in life. This blending of functions shows how astronomy, land ownership, and lineage became intertwined. The stones were a permanent claim, a declaration that a people and their knowledge belonged to a specific place. This adaptability is powerfully illustrated by the long life of the Swedish monument known as Ale stones. This massive stone ship setting was constructed during the Nordic Iron Age, but centuries later, the Vikings who inhabited the same land saw its enduring power. They did not dismantle it. Instead, they repurposed it, likely using it for their own gatherings and ceremonies, grafting their new stories onto an ancient framework. This practice was common. A later culture might not fully understand the original astronomical alignments, but they recognized the spiritual significance of the place. They respected the work of their distant ancestors enough to keep the stones standing, weaving them into the fabric of their own time. This reveals a profound truth about human innovation. It is rarely about inventing from nothing. More often, it is about standing on the shoulders of giants, or in this case, standing within their circles, and adding a new layer of understanding. The true legacy of these sites is this unbroken chain of curiosity, where each generation looked at the same stones and saw both the past and the future. This ongoing story invites us to look closer at the unique personalities of these circles, to see how different cultures from across the globe expressed a universal idea in their own distinct way. Each of these global monuments speaks with its own distinct voice. In England, Stonehenge remains the iconic example, its massive Sarsen trilithons framing the solstice sun with breathtaking drama. Yet its purpose was deeply local, serving as a ceremonial center and a solar calendar for the communities that built it over generations. Far to the south, in the Senegambia region of West Africa, over 1,000 laterite pillars stand in clusters across the landscape. These circles, like those at Washu, are markedly different. They are not built to frame a distant horizon, but instead create intimate spaces marked by tall, cylindrical stones, often capped with a single slab. They served as sacred burial sites for centuries, their astronomical alignments woven into the funerary rites of a society that honored its ancestors under the watchful stars. This contrast in design reveals how the same fundamental idea was adapted to fit entirely different cultural and spiritual needs. Even older than Stonehenge is the stark desert circle of Nabta Playa in southern Egypt. Dating back over 7,000 years to a time when the Sahara was a green savanna, this site features a remarkable alignment. Key stones within the circle point directly toward the three stars of Orion's belt. This celestial pattern was so deeply ingrained in the culture that some scholars, like astronomer J. McKim Malville, suggest it may have served as a conceptual blueprint for the later arrangement of the Giza pyramids, built millennia afterward. It is a powerful echo across time, connecting a simple stone circle in the desert to the most famous monuments of the pharaohs. In northwestern France, the scale of ambition takes a different form. Karnak alignments are not a circle but a vast, sprawling network of thousands of standing stones arranged in parallel rows that stretch for miles. Walking among these menhirs is like moving through a petrified forest of time. While their exact purpose is still debated, many researchers believe these long avenues were used to track the complex movements of the moon, its light and shadow sliding down the rows to mark significant lunar events. This focus on the moon rather than the sun showcases a regional variation in astronomical priority, a different facet of the cosmos being meticulously recorded. As the renowned archaeologist Aubrey Burl once noted, each circle tells a unique story of its builders. On the Mediterranean islands of Malta, the megalithic temples incorporate solar alignments into their unique cloverleaf designs. Across the Atlantic, medicine wheels constructed by indigenous peoples of North America used a spoke and circle pattern of stones to mark the solstices and the rising of important stars like Sirius. This was not a single culture's knowledge spreading outward, but a shared human instinct flowering independently wherever people looked up at the night sky. This global tapestry of stone invites us to wonder what other secrets these silent sentinels still hold, and what they can teach us about our own place in the universe. Even with all we have uncovered, these ancient stones guard their deepest secrets fiercely. The true purpose of certain circles remains a subject of intense debate among experts. In northeastern Scotland, for example, you find the recumbent stone circles, named for their single massive stone laid horizontally or recumbent, flanked by two towering uprights. Was this arrangement a grand stage for observing the low swinging moon during its major standstill? Or was the long, flat stone a communal table, a platform for feasts that united the entire community under the celestial sphere? The evidence supports both ideas, leaving us with a puzzle that may never have a single answer. Other unexplained features deepen the intrigue. Some circles conceal mysterious underground chambers, known as souterrains or foggas. Were these simply storage pits, or did they serve a more profound purpose? Perhaps they were used for rituals of rebirth, symbolizing a descent into the earth before emerging back into the light. Even the very sound of these places holds mystery. At some sites, specific stones produce a unique, resonant tone when struck, while the architecture of the circle itself can amplify a whisper spoken at its center. Was this an early form of acoustic engineering, used to project a chieftain's voice or to create an otherworldly soundscape during ceremonies? These possibilities point toward functions that go far beyond pure astronomy, hinting at uses in healing, communication with the spirit world, or communal bonding. This leads us to the great, unanswerable question: how did they coordinate these monumental projects across generations without a single written plan? The knowledge of alignments, the logistics of moving tons of stone, the precise social organization required, all of it was held in memory, passed down through an oral tradition we can no longer hear. Every unexplained feature is a silent testament to a vast body of lost knowledge. These ongoing mysteries fuel a healthy controversy in the field. One researcher might see a circle as a precise lunar observatory, while another interprets the same stones as a symbolic map of the ancestral world. This debate is not a failure of science, but its very engine. It reminds us that the past is not a simple puzzle to be solved, but a deep well of human experience we are only beginning to fathom. These debates reveal a fundamental tension in how we see the past. Was Stonehenge primarily a celestial computer or a cathedral under the open sky? The evidence can point in multiple directions. Its alignment with the midsummer sunrise is undeniable, a feat of engineering that marks the longest day of the year with spectacular precision. Yet, the discovery of numerous human remains, some showing signs of severe illness, has fueled the theory that it was a destination for healing, a prehistoric Lourdes where the solstice sun possessed curative powers. Alternatively, the cremated bones of elite individuals suggest it could have been a royal cemetery, a monument to lineage and power where astronomy served to glorify a ruling class. The truth likely lies in a combination of all these functions, a reminder that ancient people did not compartmentalize their world as we often do. The spiritual and the scientific were one and the same. Historians like Ronald Hutton offer a crucial corrective, urging us not to see these monuments through a purely modern, scientific lens. He suggests that a stone aligned with the solstice sun might have been intended not to measure it, but to worship it, to capture its spirit, or to provide a doorway for a deity to enter the human world. This distinction is everything. It asks us to set aside our own worldview and consider a mindset where the movement of the heavens was a divine drama, not just a physical mechanism. This controversy enriches our understanding rather than diminishing it. It forces us to see these circles as multidimensional spaces where community identity, political authority, medical belief, and celestial observation were woven into a single, inseparable fabric. The stones were silent partners in this complex dance, their meanings shifting with the generations that used them. This layered legacy did not end with the Bronze Age, but went on to inspire and perplex the civilizations that followed, including our own. The echoes of these stone circles did not fade with the last standing stone. Their legacy, a deep understanding of geometry and celestial motion, rippled forward through time, influencing the very foundations of classical science. Greek philosophers like Thales and Pythagoras, who laid the groundwork for Western astronomy, were likely building upon geometric principles and observational methods that had been practiced for millennia at sites like Stonehenge and Callanish. The idea of a spherical Earth, a universe governed by mathematical order, these were not sudden inventions but the refinement of a very old way of seeing the world. This knowledge, preserved and expanded, traveled across cultures. During the medieval period, Islamic scholars in centers like Baghdad and Damascus became the new custodians of astronomy. They refined the astrolabe, a sophisticated instrument for mapping the stars and telling time. The core concept of the astrolabe, using a rotating disk to model the celestial sphere, feels like a direct descendant of the stone circle, a portable version of those fixed, earthly maps of the heavens. It was a bridge of intellect connecting the prehistoric watchers of the sky to the age of exploration. This was not a single line of transmission, but a global phenomenon. Far across the world, the Maya of Mesoamerica developed their own stone observatories, like the Caracol at Chichen Itza. Its unique spiral tower, with narrow windows precisely aligned to the movements of Venus, evolved into one of the most complex calendar systems ever created. They tracked planetary cycles with stunning accuracy, a parallel achievement that shows how the same human impulse to chart the cosmos could lead to independent yet equally brilliant results. As historian of science James Evans has noted, many of these ancient innovations, though sometimes lost or forgotten, were rediscovered during the Renaissance, giving new energy to the scientific revolution. This unbroken lineage demonstrates a profound truth about human progress. Our drive to understand the universe is a continuous thread, woven through every culture and epoch. The early astronomers who raised the first stones set a course for all who followed, proving that curiosity itself is the most powerful instrument of all. For centuries, the stone circles slept under layers of soil and superstition, their true purpose fading into local folklore of giants turned to stone or fairy rings. The modern journey to reclaim their meaning began in earnest during the 1700s, when curious antiquarians like William Stukeley started to view them not as mythical oddities, but as subjects for serious study. Stukeley meticulously surveyed sites like Stonehenge and Observatories, championing the then radical idea that they were temples built by ancient druids with a profound knowledge of astronomy. While his druidic theory was later challenged, his work was a crucial spark, igniting a scientific curiosity that refused to let these monuments be forgotten. Today, that spark has become a technological firestorm. Archaeologists now peer into the earth without ever lifting a trowel, using tools like LiDAR scanning and ground-penetrating radar. LiDAR works by bouncing laser pulses from an aircraft down through vegetation, digitally stripping away trees and grass to reveal the ghostly imprint of ancient earthworks and forgotten processional avenues hidden for millennia. Ground-penetrating radar sends electromagnetic pulses into the soil, mapping buried pits, post holes, and even the footprints of stones that were removed or fell long ago. These technologies are like X-ray vision for the past, confirming suspected alignments and revealing entirely new ones, proving the sites were far more complex than what survives above ground. In the Orkney Islands, off Scotland's northern coast, this high-tech approach has been combined with careful excavation to paint a vibrant picture of daily life. At the Ness of Brodgar, a vast complex near the Ring of Brodgar, archaeologists have uncovered the remains of massive stone buildings with decorated walls, huge midden heaps filled with animal bones, and finely crafted stone tools. These are not the quiet remnants of an occasional ritual. They are the debris of epic seasonal feasts, evidence that thousands of people gathered here from across the region, trading, socializing, and reaffirming community bonds under the celestial clock. The stone circle was not an isolated temple, but the beating heart of a thriving seasonal capital. Crucially, this modern science is no longer a solitary pursuit. Archaeologists increasingly work hand in hand with local communities and descendants of the builders, weaving traditional knowledge with cutting-edge data. This collaboration ensures that the cultural heritage of these places is protected, not just plundered for academic papers. Every new discovery, from a laser-scanned processional way to a butchered cow bone from a solstice feast, adds another piece to the puzzle. Together, they show us that these were not silent, austere observatories, but vibrant centers of life, deeply integrated into the social and economic fabric of their time. This holistic view forces us to look beyond the circle itself, to see how it was connected to the wider world. The placement of these circles was never accidental. They were woven into the very flesh of the land, their positions chosen to harmonize with hills, rivers, and the distant profiles of other sacred sites. This was more than just finding a flat, clear space. It was a deliberate practice we might call geomancy, the art of aligning human structures with the perceived energies of the earth and sky. The builders sought out locations that would amplify their celestial observations. An elevated ridge, like the one hosting the Rollright Stones in England, provided a panoramic 360-degree view of the horizon, a perfect canvas for tracking the sun and moon from rise to set. Conversely, a carefully selected valley might cradle the rising sun between two specific peaks, framing the celestial event with natural architecture and making its timing unmistakable to the entire community. This created a holistic cosmic map where the artificial circle and the natural world reflected each other, each stone and hilltop a point on a vast terrestrial star chart. Archaeologists like Timothy Darville propose that these choices reflected a profound belief that the Earth itself was alive with forces directly connected to the heavens. A particular spring, a prominent hill, or a strangely shaped stone was seen as a concentration of this energy, a power spot. By building their observatory on such a site, the community was plugging their celestial calendar directly into the planet's vital essence. The circle became a conduit, a place where cosmic power could be drawn down into the Earth and earthly energy could be offered up to the sky. This deep integration shows a respect for the environment that goes far beyond mere utility. They were not conquering the landscape but collaborating with it. Every sunrise seen over a sacred hill, every moonrise framed by a natural notch in the mountains, reinforced the idea that the entire world was a single, breathing, sacred observatory. This intricate knowledge of the land and stars, however, was not stored in libraries, but in the living memory of the people, passed from one generation to the next through the fragile, powerful thread of oral tradition. This knowledge was a living thing passed from mouth to ear and heart to heart. Without a single written word, ancient societies perfected the art of memory, weaving astronomical data into the very fabric of their culture. The precise alignments of the stone circles were not just built in rock, they were etched into the minds of the people through stories, songs, and rituals. An elder or a shaman, the keeper of this celestial library, would teach the next generation through rhythmic recitations and direct, practical demonstrations. A young apprentice would not just hear a story about the winter solstice. They would stand in the circle year after year, feeling the cold air, watching the long shadows, and chanting the songs that marked the sun's slow return. This repetitive, immersive process turned abstract astronomical cycles into a visceral, community-wide experience, ensuring that the critical timing for planting, harvest, and ceremony was never forgotten. This method of knowledge transfer was a global phenomenon. For the Aboriginal peoples of Australia, the night sky was a vast canvas for their dreamtime stories. The rising of the Pleiades star cluster, for instance, was not merely a seasonal marker. It was a story about the seven sisters being chased across the heavens. This narrative, passed down through thousands of generations in song and rock art, reliably signaled the arrival of the dingo breeding season or the time to harvest a particular food source. The story made the information unforgettable, embedding a complex astronomical calendar within a rich mythological framework, as anthropologist Jan van Siena demonstrated through his studies of African oral traditions. These histories can be remarkably precise, with details of lineages and events often corroborated by archaeological digs centuries later. This reveals that early science was a deeply social endeavor. Knowledge was not the private property of an isolated genius, but a collective treasure, a shared resource that ensured the entire community's survival and cohesion. The stone circle was the physical anchor for this living tradition, a permanent reference point that gave form to the songs and validated the stories told under the starry sky. This reliance on communal memory invites a fascinating comparison. How do these earthen observatories measure up against the more famous astronomical sites of the ancient world? Yet these stone circles were not alone in their cosmic ambition. Across the globe and throughout antiquity, other great civilizations were building their own bridges to the heavens, each with a distinct architectural signature. The stepped ziggurats of Mesopotamia rose toward the stars, their towering forms serving as platforms for priests to track the intricate movements of planets like Mars and Jupiter. In the flat, sun-baked plains of Egypt, the pyramids were precisely aligned with the pole star and the belt of Orion, anchoring the pharaoh's soul to the immutable circumpolar stars for eternity. And in the dense jungles of Mesoamerica, the Mayans constructed towering temples like the Caracol at Chichen Itza, a spiral observatory with narrow windows perfectly framed to follow the complex cycles of Venus, a planet they associated with war and rain. What sets the stone circles of Europe apart is their primary focus. While ziggurats tracked planets and pyramids focused on fixed stars, the great rings of stone were masters of the more immediate sky, charting the foundational rhythms of the sun and moon. The Caracol allowed Mayan astronomers to predict the appearances of Venus as both a morning and evening star with stunning accuracy, information crucial for their ritual calendar and warfare. In contrast, the massive trilithons of Stonehenge created a comprehensive solar calendar, marking the solstices with a dramatic, unmissable alignment that governed the agricultural and ceremonial year. This difference in celestial focus was not a matter of superior knowledge, but of regional priority and technological context. A culture living under the open, often overcast skies of northern Europe would find the bright, predictable sun and the haunting, complex moon to be their most reliable celestial clocks. A society in the clear desert nights of Mesopotamia, however, could devote itself to the slower, more mysterious dance of the wandering planets. Each approach was a brilliant adaptation, a unique solution to the universal human need to find order in the cosmos. These parallel traditions reveal a profound truth. From the deserts of Egypt to the moors of Britain, humanity was engaged in a single, sprawling project, using the best tools and materials at hand to harness cosmic patterns for both practical survival and spiritual transcendence. This shared quest for understanding inevitably leads us to wonder about the underlying rules, the hidden mathematics that made such precision possible. The stones themselves were laid out with a mathematical elegance that rivals any modern blueprint. Behind the seemingly random placement of these great monoliths lies a hidden language of geometry, a sophisticated understanding of shape and proportion that was passed down through generations of builders. They were not simply dropping boulders into holes, they were solving complex spatial problems. Their designs went far beyond simple circles, incorporating precise ellipses and even layouts based on Pythagorean triangles, a geometric concept that would not be formally named for thousands of years. At some sites, the ratios embedded in the stonework seem to prefigure famous mathematical constants like pi or the golden section, suggesting an intuitive grasp of the harmonious relationships that govern form. This was not crude measurement, it was a form of sacred geometry, where the perfection of mathematical principles was seen as a reflection of cosmic order. The late engineer Alexander Thom dedicated his life to surveying hundreds of these sites across Britain. His meticulous work led him to a startling proposal that the builders used a standardized unit of measurement, which he termed the megalithic yard. This unit, equivalent to about 2.72 of our feet, appears again and again in the dimensions of circles from Scotland to southern England. The implications are profound. It suggests a network of communication, a shared technical knowledge that connected distant communities across the landscape. This was not a series of isolated projects, but a coordinated cultural movement with a common architectural language. This geometric genius was applied with clear intention. Builders used complex patterns, including pentagrams and egg-shaped layouts, to create more accurate sightlines to celestial bodies. The Castlereagh Circle in England's Lake District is a perfect example of this practical geometry. Its irregular, flattened shape is not a mistake. Researchers believe its unique form was deliberately designed to optimize the view of certain mountain peaks on the horizon, peaks that served as backdrops for the rising and setting of important stars. Each curve and angle was a deliberate calculation, a way to fine-tune the observatory's function. This mathematical prowess completely shatters the old stereotype of prehistoric peoples as primitive and unthinking. They were analytical thinkers, skilled engineers, and precise astronomers who encoded their knowledge in the very shape of their world. Their silent stones speak of a forgotten age of innovation, where intellect and observation built a lasting conversation with the cosmos. This deep understanding of geometry, however, was always in a delicate dance with the raw materials and rugged terrain they had to work with. The very landscape dictated the design of these cosmic calendars. A circle built in the misty highlands of Scotland faced a different set of challenges and opportunities than one constructed in the sun-baked plains of West Africa. The local environment was not just a backdrop, it was an active participant in the design. Builders had to consider everything from the clarity of the sky to the very stones under their feet. In the northern latitudes, where the sun's path swings dramatically between summer and winter, the solstices were critical. These were the extreme turning points, the moments when the sun seemed to halt its journey. A circle here had to be positioned to capture that low, sweeping arc of the summer sun or the brief, precious light of the winter noon. This was a matter of survival, marking the narrow window for planting and the long wait for the Earth to warm again. But travel closer to the equator and the celestial priorities shifted. There, the sun passes almost directly overhead. The solstices are less dramatic, but the equinoxes, when the sun rises due east and sets due west, become powerful anchors for the calendar. In some cultures, they even track the sun's zenith passage, the moment it cast no shadow at all, a phenomenon unknown in the north. The available building materials shaped the monuments just as deeply. A community living on the granite moors of Cornwall used the rugged, local stone, giving their circles a raw, powerful aesthetic that seemed to grow from the earth itself. Another group, situated near a source of smooth, easily worked sandstone, could create more finely shaped and decorated pillars. The geology of the place gave each circle its unique voice and character. Even climate change left its mark on these stones. As the Neolithic period wore on, a gradual cooling trend, a slow descent into a colder, wetter era, may have transformed the function of some circles. A site that began as a precise agricultural calendar, telling farmers exactly when to sow their seeds, might have seen its practical purpose fade as growing seasons shortened and failed. In response, the community could have shifted its focus, emphasizing the circle's role as a ceremonial center, a place to plead with the spirits for better weather or to reaffirm social bonds in a time of increasing hardship. The location of the Moel Tai Uchaf Circle in Wales is a perfect example of this environmental mindfulness. It sits on a high, windswept plateau, a place deliberately chosen for its unobstructed, 360-degree views of the horizon. Here, the wind sweeps the clouds away, offering clear skies for watching the stars and creating dramatic, ever-changing plays of light and shadow across the stones at dawn and dusk. This was not a random choice, it was a strategic selection of the perfect natural theater for a celestial performance. To understand these circles, we must see them not as isolated monuments, but as deeply integrated parts of their ecosystem. They show us a people who are exquisitely tuned to their environment, using its gifts and navigating its challenges to maintain their vital connection to the cosmos. This intricate relationship between the people and their land inevitably makes us wonder about the people themselves and the often overlooked roles that women played in this grand astronomical project. The people behind these stone circles were not a faceless collective. They were individuals whose lives and roles were as complex and interwoven as the monuments they built. While we often picture massive stones being hauled by teams of men, the social organization was likely far more nuanced. Evidence from burial sites near these circles tells a compelling story. Archaeologists often find graves containing distinctive artifacts, tools that hint at a person's role in life. A burial with fine stoneworking tools might belong to a master mason, while another with carved ceremonial objects could be a priest or astronomer. Crucially, these graves are not exclusively male. Some female burials contain items of high status, suggesting that women held positions of authority and knowledge within these societies. This challenges the old assumption that prehistoric life was a simple patriarchy. It points instead to a community where different skills were valued and where contributions to the great project of the circle came from many hands. The division of labor may have been defined, but it was not necessarily hierarchical in the way we understand it today. A person's value was likely measured by their contribution to the communal whole, whether that was hauling stone, calculating an alignment, or presiding over a ceremony. This intricate social tapestry was reflected in the very knowledge the circles preserved. The moon, with its 28-day cycle so closely mirroring the human fertility cycle, was often associated with feminine power. It is easy to imagine women as the primary keepers of this lunar calendar, tracking its phases to mark not only celestial events but also the rhythms of human life, from menstruation to childbirth. In Malta, the ancient temples are filled with corpulent female figurines, statues that scholars like Marija Gimbutas interpreted as symbols of a great mother goddess. These figures suggest that in some cultures the primary celestial deity was female, and the knowledge of the skies was intimately tied to concepts of creation and fertility. This stands in stark contrast to later pantheons dominated by sky gods like Zeus or Odin. The sun, with its dependable daily path, might have been the domain of those coordinating the hunt or managing communal defense, roles often but not always filled by men. Yet even this separation is too clean. The great solar festivals like the solstices would have involved the entire community, blurring any strict lines. The stone circle itself was the ultimate communal space, a physical manifestation of a society that understood its strength came from unity. It was a place where the lunar knowledge of women and the solar tracking of men came together to create a complete cosmic picture. This rich social and spiritual life, centered around the stones, did not vanish with the arrival of new technologies or beliefs. Instead, it transformed, its memory echoing through centuries of art and storytelling, inspiring new generations to find meaning in these ancient alignments. These silent stones have echoed far beyond their original horizons, inspiring artists and writers for centuries. The great Romantic painter J.M.W. Turner captured Stonehenge under brooding, tempestuous skies, transforming it from an archaeological site into a sublime monument to nature's power and the fragility of human endeavor. His brushstrokes did not aim for historical accuracy, but for emotional truth, cementing the circle's image as a place of profound mystery and melancholic beauty. This romantic vision was powerfully echoed in literature. In Thomas Hardy's novel Tess of the D'Urbervilles, the final, tragic scenes unfold at Stonehenge. For Tess, the stones are not an observatory but a pagan altar, a place of ancient justice and fatalistic surrender to a destiny far older than herself. Hardy used the circle as a stark symbol of a primordial moral law, a silent judge from a time beyond memory. These artistic interpretations, while often straying from archaeological fact, have played a crucial role in shaping our collective imagination. They wrap the stones in a veil of mystique that sometimes obscures their true purpose as sophisticated scientific instruments. This mythologizing can be a double-edged sword. It risks replacing the remarkable reality of Neolithic engineering with fantasies of druids, aliens, or lost magic. Yet this very allure has also been their salvation. The poetic power attributed to the stones by artists like William Blake, who saw in Avebury a vision of a divine prehistoric Britain, ignited a public passion that fueled early preservation movements. People fought to save these places not because they were ancient calendars, but because they had become powerful symbols in the cultural landscape, touchstones for our own longing for connection and mystery. This enduring cultural legacy demonstrates how these circles have transcended their original functions to become timeless canvases. Each generation projects its own fears, hopes, and questions onto the weathered stones, ensuring they remain alive in our stories long after their builders' names have been forgotten. This ongoing conversation between past and present, between science and art, sets the stage for their most surprising role as a foundation for the future of science itself. That same geometric precision, born from stone and shadow, now guides our most advanced eyes on the universe. The foundational principles of long-term observation and precise alignment, first mastered at stone circles, are the bedrock of modern astronomy. When scientists configure a vast array of radio telescopes, like the Very Large Array in New Mexico, they are employing the same core concept as the builders of the Karnak alignments. Each individual dish functions like a single standing stone, and by combining their signals across a wide geometric baseline, they create a virtual instrument of immense power, capable of seeing deep into the cosmic void. This is not a vague parallel, it is a direct intellectual inheritance. The drive to map the sky through careful placement and measurement is a thread that runs unbroken from the Salisbury Plain to the launch pads of Cape Canaveral. Even the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, with its arrays of antennas listening for a faint signal, uses this ancient logic of coordinated observation. The legacy is also written in time itself. The slow, grand wobble of Earth's axis, known as precession, gradually shifts our view of the stars over a cycle of 26,000 years. This imperceptible drift is a key factor in modern celestial mechanics, and the stone circles provide a crucial benchmark. By comparing the alignments encoded in monuments like Nabta Playa, which pointed to Orion's belt 7,000 years ago, with the stars positioned today, astronomers gain a fixed point in a vast timeline. These ancient records provide a data span that complements and extends our modern satellite measurements, offering a long-term perspective that is otherwise impossible to obtain. The late astronomer Carl Sagan profoundly understood this connection. He saw these early monuments not as primitive attempts, but as the first courageous steps in a grand human adventure. He once reflected that the cosmos was within us, that we are made of star stuff, and that we are a way for the universe to know itself. The stone circles are a beautiful, enduring testament to that very impulse, the moment we first began to systematically know our cosmic home. This ancient knowledge now inspires new frontiers of research. By understanding how prehistoric societies tracked and adapted to gradual environmental shifts, we can refine our own climate models, looking to the past for clues to our future. The same patient observation that charted the moon's cycle now informs how we plan long-duration space missions, where understanding celestial rhythms is a matter of survival. This enduring legacy underscores a pressing responsibility. These sites are non-renewable archives of human intellect, fragile links in a chain of discovery that stretches back millennia. Protecting them from erosion, development, and neglect is not just about preserving the past, it is about safeguarding a foundational chapter in our ongoing story of cosmic exploration. Future generations of scientists and seekers will depend on the integrity of these stones to ask new questions we cannot yet even conceive. Protecting these fragile links to our cosmic past is a race against time itself. The very feat of admiring visitors can slowly erode the earth around the stones, while more deliberate acts of vandalism and the relentless pressure of urban development threaten to sever our connection to this ancient knowledge. The fight to save them is a global one, uniting international bodies with local communities. Organizations like UNESCO grant sites like Stonehenge World Heritage status, a designation that helps marshal resources and enforce protections on an international scale. Yet the most immediate guardians are often local volunteer groups who tirelessly monitor the sites, clear invasive vegetation, and champion sustainable tourism practices that allow people to experience the circles without loving them to death. This work is as much about ethics as it is about archaeology. For many indigenous and descendant communities, these are not ruins but living sacred spaces, places where their ancestors still speak. An ethical approach demands we respect these ongoing spiritual connections, consulting with communities and honoring their traditions. This creates a delicate balance, a constant negotiation between the public's right to access this shared heritage and the absolute necessity of preserving it for generations yet unborn. At Scotland's Ring of Brodgar, this balance is put into practice every day. Visitor pathways are carefully managed to prevent soil compaction that could destabilize the ancient monoliths, while knowledgeable guides share stories that go far beyond dry facts. They speak of the people, the stars, and the enduring power of the place, transforming a tourist stop into a profound encounter. Educational programs for schools and the public are crucial, fostering a sense of collective stewardship. When a child learns that a stone aligns with the winter solstice sunrise, they are not just memorizing a fact, they are becoming the next link in a chain of wonder that stretches back thousands of years. These concerted efforts ensure the circles endure not as frozen relics, but as vibrant, living classrooms. Every preserved stone is an open book on prehistoric ingenuity, a testament to a time when humanity first sought to measure the heavens. By safeguarding them, we do more than honor our ancestors. We protect a wellspring of inspiration. The same curiosity that raised these stones now fuels our search for exoplanets and the mysteries of dark matter. In protecting these first celestial maps, we guarantee that future generations will always have a place to stand and look up, connecting their own dreams to the same stars that guided the very first astronomers. These silent stones are more than monuments, they are milestones in the long story of human thought. Their true legacy is not locked in the past, but lives on in our persistent drive to ask the same profound questions that stirred our ancestors. They challenge us to see ourselves not as separate from the universe, but as a conscious part of its vast, unfolding narrative. This perspective bridges the gap between ancient science and modern philosophy, inviting us to consider our own responsibility within a delicate, interconnected web of life. The patient observation and deep environmental harmony practiced by these early cultures offer a powerful lesson in resilience. In our own era of rapid climate change, their example urges us to look for sustainable solutions rooted in a profound respect for the natural world, reminding us that survival has always depended on reading the signs of the earth and sky. The quest to understand these circles is far from over. Each season of excavation and every technological breakthrough brings us closer to the people behind the stones. Future archaeologists might use sophisticated DNA analysis on the cremated remains found at these sites to trace the genetic lineage and geographical origins of the builders. Were they a closely knit clan or a diverse gathering of tribes drawn from across the land? Advanced three-dimensional modeling could simulate the acoustic properties of a complete circle, letting us hear the echoes of a ceremony for the first time in millennia. We could digitally reconstruct the original sightlines, now obscured by forests and modern buildings, to to reveal alignments with stars that have long since drifted from their ancient positions. These tools promise to peel back the layers of time, not to find a single, simple answer, but to appreciate the rich, complex tapestry of human belief and ingenuity. The enduring mystery of the stone circles ensures they will never cease to be fonts of inspiration. They stand as a permanent invitation to look up and wonder, to collaborate across generations, and to remember that the greatest human innovations often begin with a simple, shared look at the stars. Our journey from the first upright gnomon to the final carved monolith reveals a profound truth about our species. We have always been astronomers. The silent stones that dot our landscapes are not cold remnants of a forgotten age. They are the crystallized curiosity of our ancestors, a permanent record of their drive to find meaning in the movements of the sun, moon, and stars. We have walked together through the principles of solar alignments that divided the year, the complex lunar cycles that predicted eclipses, and the steadfast stars that guided journeys. We have seen how this science was not separate from society, but woven into its very fabric, uniting communities in construction, ceremony, and survival across every continent. This was a global awakening of the human mind. The stones themselves are the ultimate teachers. They show us that science and spirituality were once a single, unified language for understanding our place in the cosmos. This ancient legacy did not vanish, it simply transformed. Its core principles of observation and geometry echoing through the ages to inform the classical world and ultimately fuel our modern exploration of the universe. These circles are far more than archaeological relics. They are timeless symbols of humanity's endless quest for knowledge. They stand as a silent challenge to each of us to look up from our daily lives, to wonder at the night sky, and to remember that we are part of a story much larger than ourselves. I would love to hear which of these stone circles captured your imagination the most. Share your thoughts and your own local mysteries in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into humanity's first observatories, subscribe for more journeys into the hidden gems of our shared past. Thank you for joining me in celebrating these magnificent monuments, the stone circles that guided our ancestors, and perhaps, if we listen closely, still have wisdom to offer us today.